I think that's interesting that it's like, him shooting is not the issue, but the misunderstanding of the alien that the government did. That they did. I wasn't in this picture, in case you didn't know.
Cinematic fantastic.
Klaatu, barada, nikto.
I'll show you who I am and what I am.
Bitten by a werewolf and lives, becomes a werewolf himself.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to the Cinematic Fantastic Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Weatherford.
And your other host, William Weatherford.
Get ready for opinions, dad jokes,
and bad jokes
as we watch and review sci-fi and fantasy films from the classics of yesteryear to the new favorites of today. Welcome to Cinematic Fantastic. This is episode 57. We are getting close to the end of season 3. That's crazy.
We've been reviewing so many horror movies and sci-fi movies and some fantasy movies that we're almost to 60.
A lot of them that are really good. Some of them that are bad but entertaining, yeah.
If every episode came out once a year on our podcast, we would be older than your grandpa.
Speaking of old people with frizzy hair.
You know what the old people love to do? They love to just sit around in a park on a bench. They love to just stand still and soak up the nature. Well, this is the day they did that. This is the day
the Earth
stood still.
From 1951? And,
yes, I think so.
Yeah, that's right. And it's directed by Robert Wise.
And what does this movie mean to you in particular?
It's just very classic science fiction as far as the themes that it delves into. It's a benign alien being, meaning that it's not overtly malevolent at the start. And
most of the alien stuff up to now was just an enemy to defeat. Like in Flash Gordon, which we covered.
There weren't a lot of stuff coming. We're going to get a lot more of the alien-based movies in the 50s, and a lot more of them tend to be more malevolent. I will tell you that the elements that are in this movie are very pertinent and classic. The themes of war and development of atomic weapons and mistrust of strangers. And how we treat people.
Oh yeah, let's dive into that a little bit. So yeah, themes of world peace. What I was thinking is that like in this movie, there's a lot of the themes of world peace it's in social conduct. It's in the form of social conduct with people. It's world peace can be done by talking, by agreeing. Because the Cold War was also on that same level. There wasn't too much going on, but there was tension that it could be. If this was World War III, no one would want that.
It's on a razor's edge, who's got the bomb, who's going to bomb,
very nervous, very nervous people at this time. In the way that they're interacting with each other, the social conduct and the socialism, if you will. And
you do see a lot of the nervousness of just regular humanity with regard to somebody they don't understand. When we get into it, there's a being from another world, and he his appearance is not that bad. But they call him a monster. They call him a monster and a creature, and
another theme of this movie, also with that is both sides are at fault here. Both misunderstand, and your side fears the other the exact same way that they fear you. Sort of like how they say the wolf is scared of you more than you're scared of the wolf.
Right.
Just truly understanding each other is really the key here to solving this great issue. And if you fail to acknowledge that both sides are at fault, you are not being a productive human, and you need to go spray your face in with a garden hose. Like, honestly. What? Not to get too political about the things that are going on right now.
No, I mean, science fiction doesn't just deal with, bug-eyed monsters from Mars. Science fiction deals with all kind of stuff. It did, politics, war, the future.
Yeah, but
of
that
humanity.
is to say that is my opinion. If you fail to acknowledge that fact, that theme does exist, if you fail to
Then
acknowledge
you're
it,
gonna
you are not
send-
being
are you gonna-
productive.
If you fail to acknowledge William's theories and themes right now,
Go dive
you will-
into a whipped cream kiddie pool.
on your doorstep will show up a 9-foot-tall robot with a laser visor, and he will
steal your
whole
voice.
house.
He will steal your voice, just like the Little Mermaid, and you'll not be able to speak anymore. But
No,
somehow
he'll just-
your true love will find you anyway. But that's not a good thing.
No, he'll just destroy your house. He'll destroy your planet. He'll sink the Rock of Gibraltar into the ocean. He'll level New York City.
Our first
We're acting-
20th
yeah.
Century Fox film on this podcast.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first time we see the famous.
Wait a minute, have we done any 20th Century Fox movies for?
Yeah, we've done none before.
Not even for.
They've only been around since the 1930s,
not
or
even the
35
Golden Age.
specifically.
We
did a lot of Universal stuff in the late 1930s.
And Republic
And all in the
Pictures
1940s.
Columbia. We did some Columbia maybe.
And a little bit of Columbia, some Warner Brothers or two, a lot of Paramount.
This film is very influential in pop culture too. There's certain phrases or characters in this that get spoofed or show up in other places. And get used.
This is a UFO movie. You want to talk about the origin of the UFO real quick as well, because I think that's interesting.
Are you talking about saucer shaped or just of any kind of shape?
Well, overall. So, yeah, we did have some of those in Flash Gordon. Remember that? I don't remember the name of the guys, but it was the alien race with the Prince guy and the Allied and stuff.
Was it the lion?
The Jack
Lion
dudes. The Lion Men, that's it.
They look like we said they look like Beyblades from the cartoon show Beyblade. Yeah.
Yeah. So after the War of the Worlds scare in 1938 was where everyone was, well, particularly in 1947, pilot Kenneth Arnold saw some UFOs moving like a saucer skipping on water, he said. And then everyone after that point was out to find a UFO. Like, for instance, the Air Force balloon in Roswell, New Mexico. The Roswell incident.
Right.
They even made saucer clubs, which I was like, that's funny. They call them saucer clubs.
Saucer
What are
clubs,
the British
yeah.
inventing?
The
The Air Force at this time was also cataloging sightings in, it's called Project Blue Book, where they would catalog all the UFOs that would happen since the Kenneth Arnold escapade. The key thing was that the government at this time was worried about the mass hysteria masking real threats or occurrences, because it's like, jump the gun. We're all real quick to jump the gun that, oh, that's a UFO, because I want to get in the newspapers, right? We did talk about last episode about how they were doing starting up the Sasquatch thing in the 1950s, and I'm like, it's interesting to think that conspiracy theories started a lot earlier than you think they did. Like, the people in the 1950s were conspiring about UFOs and Sasquatches and Yetis and Mothman. Not really. I don't think he was invented back then. But
Mothman was in the late 50s, 60s, I think.
Huh, so yeah, most of the cryptids would likely all originate in the 50s, as well as aliens and stuff.
Oh, there had been sightings of Sasquatch or Bigfoot for hundreds of years. They just didn't call them that at the time. A lot of ancient legends can't come to light.
And even
and
still,
you're kinda like, oh,
recently there was this supposed alien mummy that the president or governor of Mexico whatever found, and we're still out to find the Area 51.
Well, okay, the guy who found those and brought those to the Mexican government, he is a infamous hoaxer, big on attention. He wants attention. If you look at the stuff that he brought in, it looks like some kind of plasticine or plaster of Paris project that your kid might have done in Vacation Bible School. It's like really bad looking.
Yeah, just
there have been
the Boy Scouts. What is called the soapbox derbies?
Soapbox Derby. It's the Soapbox Derby.
It's a soapbox derby.
Pinewood.
Just
What, the
slide
Pinewood
that
Derby?
thing down. It
Yeah.
looks like an idol from Indiana Jones.
It does. It does. Like, it does. Yeah. And why? Yeah. And I think Neil deGrasse Tyson was mentioning, why do they have 2 arms and 2 legs and fingers and toes? There was a video, not to get too far off a track here, but there was a video that supposedly came into the ownership of I guess Fox, broadcast channel Fox, back in the 90s. It was called Alien Autopsy. Supposedly it was a old military video of a real life alien that was cut open, and they were, messing with it or whatever. And it was very a little too good. It almost looked like, I know it looked really real, but I'm very doubtful about it because it looks like modern special effects, made to look like from the 40s or 50s.
I'd have to see it. But the history is that it started with Flash Gordon in the 30s. Then we got Superman in the 40s in the comic books. He's an alien from
1938.
Planet Krypton, and a very famous alien at that. Also a very helpful alien. So very benign.
Yeah. Superman. Later on in the 80s, we'd get E.T., the extraterrestrial.
Yeah, but the first movie that would have, like, a flying saucer is called The Flying Saucer. And then I believe there was The Man from Planet X was the next one, and then this is the third movie to feature UFOs that we have. And then it would spike in the 60s. There would be more movies in the 70s.
The sightings
90s,
have gone.
All about
the sightings
aliens,
have gone back. There's even sightings of these things going all the way back to the Renaissance times, and sometimes they weren't even in like a saucer shape. They would be like in a long. They'd be like a sphere, or even a long cigar shaped, or even a cylinder. So
like War of the Worlds.
Yeah,
which was in the 1890s. And to also go back, ever since the Chinese were fascinated with space and astrology, or astronomy, sorry, and well, that
and
too.
Astrology too, that too,
that too, and like just what was out there, like also probably had theories about what life may exist out there. The same as like what life might exist on the other side of this ocean. We never know. And then it turns out that there are people over there.
Interesting.
It's sort of interesting then to think about how the West was like the planet Mars to like the British and the Spanish. Thinking of where Christopher Columbus was.
Well, also the Aztecs.
And the Aztecs as well.
The Aztecs had a legend about a godlike being would come across the ocean.
We talked about in Rocket Ship XM how about the tiki mask looking thing on the other side. I wonder that it'd be interesting that like some of the architecture of the Aztecs were alien to the people on the other side, and that's sort of where we get the ideas from.
Oh, well, there's the ancient alien theory. The
aliens didn't build the pyramids, but
no, they didn't.
The Aztecs were the aliens.
No. The funny thing is that all it takes is some intelligence, ingenuity,
and that brings us back to the theme of two sides in a war are alien to each other.
They're more alike than they know too, though.
Yeah, let's get into the movie and see how that is.
Yes. So this is The Day the Earth Stood Still from 1951.
More like a week, actually.
Huh?
More like a week, actually.
Oh, it's like 2 or 3 days.
They have like a good night, and then they have another good night, and they sort of montage a bit.
It's 2 or 3 days. If you really want to think about it, I was going to call this the lunch break that the Earth stood still. It's 30 minutes. Whenever the eponymous time that the Earth stood still, it's like it ends up only being like 30 minutes total, long enough to have a discussion in an elevator. But anyway, let's start from the top. We get a sound of an instrument that we're going to hear quite a bit.
The theremin, and this movie would popularize it. It started in Rocket Ship XM, which we did 2 episodes ago.
Yes.
Also, the font in this movie, I was like, very sci-fi, serial, action-y. Also, there's
Epic.
an organ It's a very nice touch. They have like a
Yes,
electric
is it
organ,
Bernard,
probably a regular organ as well.
There's
and
a
they
lot
have
of
harp
electrical
over
stuff
top.
in this.
They're all
Bernard
arpeggiating.
Herrmann did the music for this, and it was
Oh,
very good.
I can talk about the composition or the things related to the composers all day, but
we'll
gotta
do that
squeeze
after
that
the,
in at the
we'll
end.
do that. We'll do that after the plot first. So the camera is flying through space toward Earth as if you're seeing, from this UFO, this craft, from its point of view. You also see reactions from Earth, all over Earth, as it's being tracked by radar.
There's a lot of cameos.
Yes.
Uncredited, a lot of the people, but some of them do have names.
You, William, would not know who these people are, but people like H.V. Kaltenborn, I think, they're famous. They're famous to people at the time. They're like, oh, that's kind of like having back in the 80s or 90s, you'd have Tom Brokaw, or now you'd have like, I guess, Anderson Cooper or somebody like that. A famous TV personality that announces news stuff on the radio or whatever like that.
Hugh Jackman.
It'd be like,
that would
there's
be
a
the most
UFO
interesting.
coming down. There's a UFO coming down.
Like literal
it's
documentary
coming at 4,000
voice.
miles an hour. I cannot do an Australian accent very well without sounding really, really.
Like a didgeridoo.
So, they
the
mentioned
first guy is Elmer Holmes Davis, American news reporter, author, the director of the U.S. Office of War Information during World War II, and a Peabody Award recipient. Since the
That's
OWI
the perfect guy to
was
do this kind of
the
reporting
OWI
too.
existed only from 1942 to 1945, I believe. That is our time frame. The movie takes place, because otherwise,
Yes,
Elmer
and
Holmes
how
Davis would be out of a
fast-
job.
How fast is the saucer traveling? About 4,000 miles an hour. That's around 5.5 times the speed of sound. The saucer lands in Washington, D.C. on a Friday afternoon at 3:47 p.m.
Yeah, there's KV Kaltenborn, radio commentator.
H.V. Kaltenborn.
H.V. Kaltenborn for CBS and then NBC. There's Drew Pearson in this movie, who is a journalist who wrote the column Washington Merry-Go-Round and the NBC show Drew Pearson Comments. And I think he's later on in the movie. Also, you get a lot of 1950s culture with this movie. Everyone's huddled around radios. You get to see a pool table bar.
Some early TV.
Yeah, a little bit, because they have a TV store and a radio
also
store.
there's a part where everybody's watching TV kind of in the dark. I guess because it looks
did you
better
see
in the
in the
dark.
bar there was those pyramid-shaped lights? Did they do those often? I thought it was a cool
that was a
aesthetic.
style. That was the Art Deco kind of style. It was kind of cool at the time. Yeah. So the ship lands on a flat area. Everybody's picnicking and they freak out. The military has time to get there and cordon the area off, and they're all pointing tanks and artillery at this thing.
The tanks in this movie are all going deja vu because they are drifting around this corner.
Oh
like,
yeah. Like Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift style.
Well,
I agree.
actually, Initial D.
Oh, okay.
That's what Deja Vu is a song from there. Yeah, apparently the aliens know where the U.S. Capitol is. We don't have Take Me to Your Leader at this time for another 2 years. It's not like they could have asked where the U.S. Capitol is, but apparently they do know where it is because they land there. Do you want to know where Take Me to Your Leader comes from? 2 years later, in 53, I believe, Alex Graham would make a newspaper cartoon. You know, like the political cartoons, that kind of cartoon, where the question is asked to a horse whether these two, like bugs, almost, and they're like, kindly take me to your president.
That's where that came from?
Yes, it is. Just me immediately thinking like the Bioshock method. Use the Bioshock method to work. Would you kindly? We come in peace, would be sort of used in this movie, although it's a general phrase. It would be left on the moon, the lunar plaque that was left on the moon after the Apollo space missions, or I guess with every, I don't know if they've left multiple of the same, but I don't know what they did. And the 1990 film called I Come in Peace, otherwise known as Dark Angel.
Dark Angel, yeah.
Did you see the poster for that movie?
Yeah.
There's like a man disc. It's almost like a Shark Boy and Lava Girl. And I was like, okay, I have to see what this movie is because that poster is so effective. Apparently he has like Yondu powers. He has this like
No,
harpoon that
no.
comes out of his.
No.
He has a
No.
harpoon that comes out of his arm, and
No.
with
Not that I know of. In I Come in Peace, there's this gun or whatever that shoots these blades, and they look like little CDs that shoot out and slice you up.
Yeah, I watched a like the final climactic battle in the movie, and this is what he used. There's this harpoon that like shoots out this arrow, and it's like magnetically waving around to the air, and he has to
I
like
remember that part.
hold it. Well, the ending of the first of all, the villain is very annoying because he's just snarling all the time, and then like literally he grabs it and then he like just sticks it in him, and then that's the ending. It's a really dumb ending, so I bet the movie's really dumb too. But
Yeah, it's one of those so bad it's good kind of movies.
yeah, like the man disc, like it's bound to be as good as Shark Boy and Lava Girl. That is kind of mid.
So 2 hours later, the ship opens up. A generally man-shaped dude comes out with a. Of course, he's got a mask on, so you can't see his face. That's coincidental, but that's convenient, I should say, because we get to see his face later on. But everybody, sees him in this mask. So he comes out, along with a 9-foot-tall robot called Gort, and they come out and he says. We have come to visit you in peace and with goodwill. That sounds really good. Goodwill toward men. So he comes out and he pulls something out of his shirt. It looks like kind of a flashlight looking thing, and these little spines come off from it, these little antenna. Some of the guys there, the army guys, are freaking out, and they instantly think that this is a weapon. So they shoot him. They destroy the object. They hit him, and he's laying there, and he says, with that this device, your president could have seen like 12 different galaxies or something like that. The things that other creatures were doing elsewhere. He could have learned about so much, and you destroyed it. He is a messianic kind of figure. He's coming out from the sky. He descends down, and gives us a gift. And what do? The first thing we do is we shoot him. What do you think about that?
Yeah, actually, he is sort of like a Christ-like figure, because he's bringing like a message to the people. He's shunned by the people, killed. A bit of a spoiler. Resurrected by Gort. And yeah, that is sort of how the
Did you say
legend goes.
God? Did you say God or Gort? No.
I said Gord.
Oh, okay. Gort.
He's resurrected by Gord.
The Holy Gord. Yeah. Now, Gort, after Klaatu is his name.
What an iconic machination Gort is.
He opens up that visor, and like Cyclops, he is shooting laser beams at people. He is heating up guns, and they're dropping them. He's melting.
Everyone like ran away before
artillery.
the robot even lasers them, though. I remember this because they sped it up. Because the crowd slowed him down, so I remember they were like running like cartoon people.
The alien, he tells the robot to stop. They take the alien to Walter Reed Hospital for treatment. And while he is there, he is visited by Mr. Harley, who is the president's secretary. The alien tells him that his name is Klaatu, just simply Klaatu. He's played by Michael Rennie, a British.
There's no Clat 1 here.
No, just Klaatu. There's no Clat 3 either. So Michael Rennie was, I think he may have been on the stage, a little bit, I think, but he only had like 1 or 2 other movies to his name before this, I think.
That would be. Funnily enough, the producer wanted an unknown actor for an unknown alien. Fox proceeded to hire Spencer Tracy, and so it's like, no, we can't do that. So they convinced him, to Michael Rennie. Michael Rennie's from Britain because British people are funny, and as I said, the other side of the world is alien to the people.
Well,
on the other side of the world.
That's why they have, That's why whenever they have, Jesus or somebody speaking, it's always like a British person. So they can give that nice, delivery.
Imagine, didn't they do like a BBC adaptation of that, and if everyone was British?
No, the alien would be the
Bible, but it's Xenoblade. Perfect.
Well, what's the most famous British alien? That'd be the Doctor, Doctor Who.
Yeah, he is
everywhere
not really
he go,
beating the Doctor
yeah.
Who allegations, especially with the inside of his ship looking very much sort of like the TARDIS. Anyway, he would be the leading man in The Third Man from 1959 to 60. He would be Lord John Roxton in Irwin Allen's Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World. In other words, the lizard abuse movie.
Oh, yeah, there was the 1960 version, but that was later, right?
Also, in the 1966 Batman, for the 2 episodes that he was ever in, The Sandman. Now, what do you remember of The Sandman in the comic books?
Oh, they had some...
Did you like him as a character?
They had some character,
I'm pretty sure he did, like, hypnosis or something.
Yeah, or they put people to sleep. That's all. They would have, when they ran out of episodes to do with the core Batman villains, they would just make up their own. Louis Lilac and the Sandman and the Bookworm or something was Roddy McDowell, and he had this this magnifying glass over his eye, on his head, so he could look at it was book related crimes. There was Vincent Price played Egghead, and he had all these egg related crimes. Go figure. It was Batman. It's just you just had to just go okay and go with it.
It fries your brain just like an egg.
Just like an egg.
So it's something to talk about with, he's basically asking to meet the representatives. He also says he's 250 million miles from Earth. Yeah, that's a neighbor when you consider that's in between Mars and Jupiter.
Yes.
So Mars is 200 away,
true. I don't think
Jupiter's 600 away.
They should have added a few, 200 or 300 more million miles to put him outside. Yeah, at least further out into the solar system.
200 million more miles to be the man who would walk to. I lost the number. The way he asked like the representatives to meet, it reminded me of Things to Come, who also had a British guy, I think, to play that role of.
Yeah, and a slightly transparent mask as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the difference is Things to Come has a fantastical style and a century-long scope, versus this movie has a grounded style and a couple day long scope.
3 days, yeah, something like 3 day scope or something.
Also, it
like
has
that,
a post-apocalyptic element to it. Things to Come, and this would send me down a rabbit hole of where the post-apocalypse would come from. And first of all, that would come from H.G. Wells' Time Machine and War of the Worlds, which H.G. Wells really is the springboard for science fiction. By the way,
I would say so.
And War of the Worlds springboarded every science fiction genre, really. But there's also Mary Shelley's The Last Man, which I was wondering if I could read that, because that would be interesting to read. It's other than Frankenstein, The Last Man is her probably one of her only most notable books besides Frankenstein. Or the
it's probably free on Gutenberg or public domain. Yeah. You could,
and then later on there would be Night of the Living Dead and Planet of the Apes, which both came out in 1968. Although Planet of the Apes, I think, would be a different planet, I believe. It's a post-apocalyptic vision.
There's a message that needs to be delivered to all the world leaders at the same time. And he says, what about the United Nations? He said, well, there's some nations that are not members of the United Nations. And so he says, I'm not interested in your petty squabbles and your disagreements amongst each other. This is bigger than just any one country. Mr. Harley, the secretary, is very, cynical. He's very cynical because he's like, they're not all going to come to the table. And he's like, do what you can, sir. So it is, I believe, the next morning, or it's later after that. It's like 2 a.m. The engineers and metal experts with the army are trying to cut into Gort and the ship.
Gort, by the way, is still.
Yeah.
He's a mysterious object existing, unmoving until an unknown condition is met. And honestly, gotta love that trope. The mystery element, especially with UFOs, they make they cut out a corn maze.
He's frozen. He's frozen because he's waiting on a command or waiting on a change in environment.
But that's like how they make like the corn, the like symbols in the corn, and then it's like what does it mean? Is it some future foretelling?
Or is it somebody with? Or is it somebody with
something to come?
with a rope and a board, and they're
Will it
just
turn into art
tamping
eventually?
things down.
Or is it already?
Yeah. Or is it a complete hoax? So it goes back to Klaatu in the hospital room. He's waiting on Mr. Harley to get back. While he's waiting for Mr. Harley to get back after he talks to the president, you see some military doctors talking, and they are mentioning that what possible place that Klaatu came from. To us, the skeletal structure's the same: heart, liver, spleen, kidneys. He said, he looks 30, but he's 78. His life expectancy is 130. His medicine is more advanced than ours. So Klaatu would have been born in 1873, our time. And these two doctors, after talking about it, they're like, yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? It's interesting. And they're smoking cigarettes. They're just like, yeah. And it's like the most unhealthy thing ever, but doctors are doing it. So, William, I looked up on YouTube some old commercials, and they actually had doctors. They said, camels, the doctors, the doctors that we did a survey with, said that camels were their favorite cigarette. It has a smooth flavor, and keeps them calm after a long day of doctoring or something to that effect.
I think the idea is the doctors don't need lungs to do surgery. I guess because
No.
otherwise it would jostle their hands.
It's really, I could just see them going like, so what do you think is wrong
That
with him?
would
He
be
goes,
a
"What-"
good slogan for like a robotic arm, the doctor surgeon thing, where it could be like, you don't need lungs to do surgery.
That actually,
That sounds like a good motto.
There's a lot of surgery that is being done with robotic arms. That there's like because a lot of
I
they'll
know that
take
because
a-
I'm
do
pretty
it-
sure somebody did it with a PlayStation 5 controller.
they'll do
Just to
small
brag.
small incision, and then they'll have the tiny little arm go in there. They use robotic armature to kind of get in there. It's still controlled by humans. It's not controlled by artificial intelligence yet. Some hospitals actually do have AI actually diagnose your illness, and all it's doing is talking to WebMD. So, it's like, I think you're pregnant. And it goes, I'm a guy. What's your problem? Yeah, he's like, you either have a headache.
But I
or
guess
you're
the
pregnant."
only methods that we have in real life are, I don't know, send Miss Frizzle in there.
But Mr. Harley comes back later that day. They talk to the Russians, and the Russians won't do it unless they do it in Moscow. And the British said they won't do it unless it's done in Washington because they trust the Americans. And Klaatu is very frustrated with this. He thinks that we're a bunch of children, that we can't, He gets a business suit of a Lieutenant Major Carpenter, John Carpenter, which there's actually a director named John Carpenter. He directed The Thing. Not the thing we're going to do, but that's the remake of that movie. We'll talk about that later.
But
So
yeah, he dips basically, and he enters this house.
room for rent.
But
It's a boarding house.
yeah, there's just his family here who he just intrudes upon their house.
They're renters, right? They're renters, and because it's a boarding house, they're individual rooms, but they're all like roommates, and they all like share this one area. So there's 5
Oh,
adults.
so they assume that he can't enter there. Okay. That,
No, well,
I
he-
thought
he-
that
he's-
he just enters, and then they're just like, oh, well, he can be here now.
No, he's renting a room, so but they make it kind of ominous, like he's in the darkness.
But yeah,
It's
so
a really
he's not
good
beating the Doctor Who allegations with this suit and tie.
It's a really cool shot, I thought, because he comes out and they finally turn on the lights, and he's just this guy, kind of he's kind of tall and he's British, but otherwise he's unassuming. So
He's
it
here
just
to tell
shows
us the tenets of our society.
And David Tennant. Of these 5 adults, the one we want to focus on is a woman named Helen Benson. She works for the Department of Commerce, and she has a young son named Billy. I think his name is Billy.
And Billy and Mr. Carpenter get along pretty well.
They do. There's also another guy named Tom, and he is trying to. He's a boyfriend of Helen, and he's trying to get her to get married with him. But they want to go on a picnic. Okay, well, we have to bring Billy, and Carpenter's like, I'll hang out with Billy. See, if this was done modern, people are like, "Excuse me, who are you? You're a grown man and you have an interest in my son."
Yeah, they don't know anything about
that's
him.
creepy. Yeah, nobody was creeped out or anything by that stuff back then. Nobody cared about that. I think something's in the water that's messed up our modern world. Him and Billy first go to the Arlington National Cemetery, and they see Billy is looking at a tombstone. It's actually Billy's father died in World War II, I think, or something like that.
And he goes like, "Are these all the dead people of World War II? Man, we don't have wars."
It has a quick scene where he sees Abraham Lincoln at the Lincoln Memorial, and he goes, "These are some really great words. I really need to. I wish I could talk to a guy like that." And he goes, "Who's the wisest?" "Oh, somebody wise?" Billy says. "What about the smart? Yeah, smartest. Yeah, smartest. Who?" "Oh,
Professor in the area.
Professor Barnard." It goes, "Okay, well let's go see him." Of course, they make a pit stop by the spaceship, and they look at it, and
I think he on the whiteboard, the blackboard. Sorry, the blackboard. I think. Like,
they go to
the equation that he's trying
house.
to solve. I don't remember the exact name of the problem, but it was three or four objects orbiting around each other, like how they orbit around each other, distilling that into a number or a couple numbers.
That wasn't the 3-body problem.
Yes, that was it.
Okay, which actually
solving the 3-body problem,
which is actually a book by a man named Liu, and it's a Chinese author wrote it, and it became a series and a Netflix show.
Interesting, but that's what he's trying to solve, but he can't solve it until the alien is like, he won't solve it the way he's doing it right now, so I'll help him out.
He writes on the board, and he writes down his address. And, the lady's about to wipe off the board. He goes, "I don't think you ought to do that. He's going to want to talk to me." And she's like, "Ugh." Anyway, later on, a guy from the government, who works with or for Dr. Barnhart, comes over to see Carpenter, or Klaatu, sorry. Comes over to see him.
Oh, he summons him to Barnard.
He wants to see you right away. So he brings him over there and
he's like, "What have you done? This is awesome."
Yeah. Yes.
You've solved the first factor.
Yeah. Very cool.
What about the other ones? Cool. Those are all solved as well. They're all the first factor. Basically, I guess I think is what he said. And he's like,
well, I'm not sure what he means by that. But very quickly just tells him, I'm an alien from another planet. I'm the guy that they're talking about.
He's like, "I got so many questions." He's like, "I got a lot of answers."
Well, he basically says that my mission is that there are other alien races in the galaxy other than just his and him and us. They're threatening violent action to completely eliminate Earth because
basically, if you use atomic rockets, we'll fire back.
Yeah, the threatened development of atomic power for space travel and the use of rockets.
And he's like, "I have to gather y'all to tell you what on Earth I want to do," but the answer to that is make a treaties. Is to broker a treaties. Really. Yeah, well,
he wants us to stop it. He wants us to stop it. It goes, what if we don't? What if Earth doesn't change its ways? He goes, well, Earth can be eliminated, and that power, he says something scary. He says, that power exists. We've got to do something to get people to realize, can we have a show of force, but not anything violent that would mess anything up and or hurt anybody? And he said, okay, I have an idea for that. It should happen at this certain time. So what ends up a demonstration of force? So it ends up happening
a blackout. I believe that's what that is.
Yeah. That was his plan.
A 30-minute blackout.
Tom, slowly but surely, it gets kind of jealous of
he's
Carpenter.
Jealous.
He doesn't he's dismissive.
He's like, he's taking my child away.
He's like, I'm tired of hearing. He's more worried about the relationship with Helen than the boy. Helen goes to Bobby's room and kind of is influenced by Tom and says, "Hey, maybe you ought to stop spending so much time with him." And he's like, "Why?" He wants to be alone. Why? So he doesn't understand. He does. He borrows a flashlight. We'll see why he does. And Bobby's like, "Why do you need a flashlight?" Or something he said about a train without something he told him about a train. He was like, "Oh, he follows him.
A train without tracks, because we don't need a road where we're going.
We're going We don't need roads. So he goes to Carpenter goes to.
Which, by the way, that train set
the
was pretty
spaceship.
loud, and his mom told him to go to bed and left, and then he pulls out a train set, and the train set is loud, and I was like, dude, you're gonna make your mother come back, and she didn't come back. So...
No. It wasn't loud enough. So
it wasn't loud enough. It was very noisy.
He used the flashlight to flash the wall behind Gort. I guess he's doing like some kind of alien Morse code or something. So Gort turns around and knows he's there. He does knock out the two guards. And then he goes into the ship. I think he's getting the machinery ready to do the blackout to make the Earth stand still the next day. So after Bobby gets home, he goes, yeah, and Mr. Carpenter, he's that spaceman. He went over to the space thing.
He gave me a bunch of diamonds.
Yeah, yeah, that's another thing too. Yeah, earlier
gives a bunch of diamonds, and I'm like, yeah.
He uses diamonds for money.
The one thing with physical currency is that no one can convert diamonds in an ATM. Like, you'd have to go to a pawn shop.
Right. Well, on Earth, but on their planet, they could just hand somebody a diamond. They'd be like, "Thanks." So the mom doesn't believe. The mom doesn't believe his story. Except what's interesting is there's just wetness on his pants. You know, like he said, "Oh, it was the grass was wet." She goes,
"Shoes, his shoes."
Yeah, that's right.
He said his shoes were wet.
Right. Tom goes upstairs and finds diamonds in Bobby's room and comes back down. And of course you find out later he plans to get the diamond appraised. He goes to Bleeker's to get the diamond appraised, and finds out there's nothing like it on Earth. And he's like,
and so he definitely knows that it's an alien. I believe next morning is when the John Carpenter visits the wife.
Helen at her work.
He visits his wife at work.
It's not anybody's. My wife. It's not his wife. It's not anybody's wife at this point. You'll find out. He goes and hangs out with Helen. Well, they go into an elevator and the elevator stops and he goes, "What time is it?" And she says 12. He goes, "Ah." So we have about 30 minutes to have a chat. So he tells her all about who he is, what his reason for being on Earth is, and all that. And I guess she just buys it. I guess she just electricity is neutralized all over the world, and we get to see a
including
montage
Westminster
of all of that.
and the Arc de Triomphe, as well as other miscellaneous places such as tractors
and something
bikes.
as simple as somebody trying to make a milkshake, or somebody trying to get milk out of a cow.
But the cow isn't electronic.
No, but the milking device is. So one thing
use your hands in the meantime, though. But anyway.
Yeah, I know. Also, one thing that I thought about is I was like, what about hospitals and if an airplane stops working, it'll fall. Yeah, he later on he actually says the one of the military guys says, yeah, everything was shut down except for, strangely enough, hospitals and airplanes. And I was like, there you go. It took me 2 watches to like pick up on that bit because I was like, oh, that's a plot hole, but it's not. So power gets restored already. They put this plastic. They coated Gort in plastic, and it's like 3 times.
Yeah, they invent plastic stronger than steel just to have a transparent but plausible encasing for the robot.
KL-83, whatever that 93, whatever that is. So I
believe in the media that this film is actually based on a short story, and it would be called Plastax in the short story. I'll talk about the short story later, but it was called Plastax. I like this better, like SpaceX.
I like okay, I guess it's okay. What about the stuff from?
You can smell the Elon Musk on the name, but it's otherwise.
What about
pretty
no. Star Trek 4 had transparent aluminum, which is basically how they can have windows in space.
I always have to have these in these, where it's like we can have glass, but it's really strong because we want it to.
The military is doing checkpoints. They're blockading everything.
Though I had this question. Why did they not use hand radio, or rather walkie-talkies, as they'd be called, instead of telephones, as it would look much cooler in the movie? This is the early mobile vehicle radio system that they had, starting in the 50s. Very new technology at that point. These would be very power-hungry. They were powered by car battery, and you'd have to press like a little thing that they do that in the movie, and they hold up the handlebar thing, I guess, of the telephone.
Yes. Yes.
And but these were very prone to line congestion, as well as being short range. And they would need manual routing, likely, due to the making sure all the congestion doesn't happen of the signals. In other words, operator.
So Tom knows that this guy is from space, and he goes to his work, and he starts to call the general to let him know, I know where the spaceman is. Strangely enough, every Christ figure needs a Judas, and I think that's what Tom is. He's like the Judas Iscariot. He's betraying him for diamonds. He's betraying him for 30 shekels, of silver. So Helen shows up and she goes, "No, you don't understand. This is bigger than you and me." And like you said, he's like
fame.
I don't care about the world. You'll see when I get my pictures in the paper, you'll think differently. She goes, "I think differently now." He goes, "Well, you're going to marry a big hero. You'll see." And she goes, "I'm not marrying anybody." Yeah, he's squandered his chances. So I'm breaking up with you, Tom. So yes, she gets into a yellow cab to head on out.
And the military are tracking this as they're traveling. And so he goes, "Well, I got a jet, I guess. But the one thing that you do to calm the robot is Klaatu, barada, nikto." And at the end of the movie...
Yeah.
We'll speculate on what that means. Though in truth, the production people said that they just made it up.
The writer said they just said it sounded cool.
Like it sounded good, but it'd be cool to speculate.
He basically says, "You need to go and stop Gort, because if Gort, I just got shot, and Gort knows that I got shot, it just somehow can sense it, so it's gonna destroy everybody." So they take him to a police station. I don't know why. I guess because he's dead.
Justice
Gort,
has to be served still.
Yeah, Helen does come over there, and she says, Klaatu, barada, nikto. She says it twice, and she's fallen down, and it's very dangerous. Like Gort's coming closer and closer. So
then Gort stops.
Well, yep. He picks her up, puts her in the ship, locks the door, and goes back and gets Klaatu. Brings him back to life, but it's not true resurrection. He actually, she says, so Gort has the power over life and death, and he says, no, only the great eternal spirit or something like that can do that.
The Almighty Spirit.
Almighty Spirit. So he's trying to say the Holy Spirit.
And apparently this might have been influenced by the censors to add this. Although I was like, this is actually a very natural line, and as we'll see shortly in the short story, that is what would happen as well, though not exactly for that reason specifically.
Didn't he clone him?
Temporary. Yeah,
he has clone bodies. Yeah,
in a moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this is the end of the movie because he's resurrected, and now everybody has gathered to the UFO.
And he's like, "I have gathered you here today," and basically, all the things I gotta say. What's interesting is that they acknowledge that the pursuit of peace isn't perfect. Is one thing, as has been demonstrated by them both misunderstanding each other. And as I said, that both sides have fear toward each other. The pursuit of peace won't be perfect because it's sort of like, two magnets facing toward each other, and then they're trying to turn to be the opposite so that they can connect, but they're both doing it at the same time. I guess that's actually a pretty good analogy.
He says, there must be security for all or no one is secure. Now, this does not mean giving up any freedom except the freedom to act irresponsibly. Your ancestors knew this when they made laws to govern themselves and hired policemen to enforce them. We of the other planets have long accepted this principle. We have an organization for the mutual protection of all planets and for the complete elimination of regression. The test of any such higher authority is, of course, the police force that supports it. So basically, if you get out of line, some Gorts are going to show up and blast and start blasting. Basically.
But to have a system that works is top priority to him, and he's like, we have a system that works. And it would be natural
we do have a
to
system,
follow it.
and it works, right. And otherwise, we're going to reduce Earth to a burned out cinder. Thank you for playing.
Yeah, the one thing, though, that was interesting is that I questioned at the beginning of the movie, why has the alien, if the alien said he came in peace, why don't they immediately go, oh, you came in peace, let's broker a treaty immediately? Answer is, the only reason that they didn't was the uncertainty in the intentions of self-protection. because they were like, oh, we shot him because he was bringing out a gift.
One of the last Klaatu one of his last things he says, "We shall be waiting for your answer. The decision rests with you." And he's basically, in a way, he's kind of pointing that message out to the people, anybody watching this, going, "The decision rests with you. What are you going to do about it?"
There's no. It's very like social elements of the conflict. It's not even that the shooting.
Did that remind you?
It's not
did
the
that remind you
shoot.
of
It's
M?
not the
What was it,
lasers themselves. Hold on.
Yeah.
It's not the lasers themselves that are the conflict, in as much as the social, the consequence of that in the social conduct. I think that's interesting. That it's like the him shooting is not the issue, but the misunderstanding of the alien that the government did. That they did. I was a part. I wasn't in this picture, in case you didn't know. But
right.
I want to talk about the production.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, there are many cameos in this movie. The radio guys are already introed. There are many major actor cameos. A lot of character actors. The ones that interested me were two people. The inspiration for Mr. Clean's design. The orange man with the scrubby brushes. Not brushes, the scrubby things.
Mr. Clean,
White.
Mr. Clean. That, yeah.
House Peters Jr. He would be in lots of westerns and some B movies. Perry Mason, he would be in Twilight Zone for an episode. And Lassie and the Lone Ranger, both series for 12 episodes. The Lone Ranger is a good score if you do westerns. And Lassie is a good score for, Lassie's in there.
So
I think Lassie was the last thing he did, so he was fairly old.
So who did Mr. Clean play in the movie? Where was he?
He was the inspiration for his design, for his face.
Whose face?
House Peters Jr., they modeled Mr. Clean's face off of House Peters.
Okay, so where was House Peters Jr. in the movie?
I did not look it up exactly. So he's one of the many different people, the government, doctors, staff, those tiny roles.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the minor roles of the movie were cameos from various major actors, character actors, and the radio producer people. There was also Snub Pollard, who is a 20s silent comedian. I did see some of his stuff, and it is a bit funny. He did some pretty good stuff. I feel like a lot of them start in media res, though, because it's like, okay, we start with this situation. For instance, there was one that was like Jack Frost, where we start with like these two brothers who are each setting traps to each other. Like, very slapstick is what he does. And another one is like, oh, I'm at the beach, but there's a bunch of these ladies doing leapfrog. And so I invite to do leapfrog, and then he gets arrested by a lifeguard for, sticking his bum out. And then they have a chase. Charlie Chaplin. Very Charlie Chaplin.
Chaplin-esque, yeah.
Yeah, he has the mustache and, like, the face. They just always have, like, that very specific, like, face that the silent comedian have, and the mustache. And those were the true marks.
I can't do it. I was trying to make the face, but...
Yeah, it's impossible. Director Robert Wise.
Yeah.
Okay, he is very big. He's a very big guy. He edited Citizen Kane.
Yes.
Well, he also edited The Magnificent Ambersons. We talked about that movie as the second movie. He was ordered to chop up Wells' cut by RoccoW to have a happier ending and shorter.
Wells was upset with him over that.
Yeah, and Wells never worked with him again after that. But
no.
He also
That's okay.
worked on,
Robert Wise had a big career.
He would later direct Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
The really boring one, yeah.
What do you mean the boring one?
Well, I'll put it this way: the pacing in that movie is interminable.
Well, yes, but it was marks of effects and a mark for what would happen with Star Trek. At that point.
I would agree. But honestly, the change over. Big. Well, here's the thing: the changeover in how we perceive Star Trek cinematically.
What happened with
Star
the motion
Trek?
picture?
Would be Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan by directed by Nicholas Meyer. Even modern Star Trek and Next Generation, all kinds of stuff, they would mimic that style
and have a whale of a time.
Yeah, but I would tell you, Star Trek motion picture is good for what
just
it is, but it's the
expanse
pacing.
of everything.
The pacing's a little much. Yeah.
I feel like what they did with the the special effects that they did in that movie, just nothing. What they would, it's they're going from TV budget to movie budget, and what could they do years later? He did West Side Story and The Sound of Music. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Very good stuff. He also did Blood on the Moon, 1948 noir western starring Robert Mitchum. And I was like, well, that was the guy from the Charles Lawton movie, The Night of the Hunter. And
Night of the
pretty
Hunter.
good movie. We also did a podcast
Mitchum's is amazing. Yeah.
I thought it was funny because Blood on the Moon, I was like, it'd be funny to have like, well, that does sound like a horror sci-fi title, but I was thinking
It
like a
does. Blood
like
on the Moon sounds like a werewolf movie.
Actually, I forget about what I was just about to say. It's a horror science fiction tale, Blood on the Moon, or just a general science fiction tale. That might be fun. Although I feel like it would the blood would boil. It wouldn't last on the moon. I think it boils. In the atmosphere.
Right.
There's no atmosphere on the moon.
Yeah, the zero atmosphere. Yeah, right.
The producer. Shoot, I didn't write his name out. It was very complicated to write, so I didn't write it. Was inspired by a news headline using the phrase "peace offensive," used for the Soviet Union's push for peace. And he thought this was a curious oxymoron. And so he was like, well, why does this exist? Peace offensive. Peace is a weapon? No way. Let's get to work. And so first of all, he knew being upfront about this real issue would be just making a propaganda film. So he decided he wanted to make it more a parable in the form of science fiction.
And his name is Julian Blaustein.
Julian Blaustein. I think it's because I couldn't write the word Blaustein. But I'll call him Julian. King Julian.
Right.
After 200 pieces of literature he read, this was the one he decided on. The short story Farewell to the Master. And he only kept what he liked about it. Klaatu and Gort versus the world. In other words, he did not like much else. He did not like it at all.
It was Ganut or something like that.
Yeah, in the short story, Ganut is a green humanoid with red eyes and a loincloth. And I'll explain the story too. We start the story in media res with the spaceship is in a museum exhibit after it gets explained to us by, the exhibit recording about how, Klaatu died, it's the shame of the human race, all that. I was like, it's funny that they say it's the shame of the human race. I'm like, okay.
Right. And they're starting it like at the end of the story.
Like, why don't you go like, that would... Yes, we feed the alien. Close one. Because the only thing he says is, I am Gort, or I am Klaatu, and he is Newt. And then they shoot him immediately. And why didn't they go like, that was close? Instead of, it was the shame of the human race. But a reporter notices that the ship can open. He takes photos of it and notices that there's gaps where there aren't, and that Newt moves slightly. Newt is actually alive when unwatched because he sneaks in when the museum is closing and everyone left. He sees Newt turn a mockingbird into a gorilla, and the people hear about this. The line in the short story, several billion bipeds are scared stiff. Revenge for the death of Klaatu. What? And this is them saying several billion bipeds are scared stiff. The rumors spreading are the words several billion bipeds are scared stiff. Why would they call themselves bipeds?
That sounds like something that Alien would say.
Yeah, I don't know why. But that's apparently their rumors that they're saying because he's hearing about this new because he went to go to sleep. Newt starts cloning the exhibit recording man via the recording of the exhibit recording. Reporter goes to the FBI and says, yo, he cloned a guy. They put Newt in glass stacks. Newt, it's G-N-U-T. I'm saying Newt because it's the
right.
I don't think I could explain it. He melts it with his body temperature and takes Sutherland, which is reporter's name, to Klaatu's coffin to bring Klaatu's last recording back to the ship to clone Klaatu. He wondered, period. I thought this was funny because there was just he wondered about this. And I'm like, okay, he wondered. About what? We don't know. Well, presumably what came before it, but still, I think it's funny. However, the clone won't last long, as there's imperfection in the recording, so he can't say much else than, yo, I'm a recording. I'm an alien. Wow. So they make another clone. But the short story ends here when he asks Newt's master's clone be told that his death was an accident. But twist ending, Newt was the master, not Klaatu. What a groundbreaking revelation. I'm like, that doesn't super matter.
Are you glad the story for The Day the Earth Stood Still is different than Farewell to the Master?
A little bit. I like... What I didn't like about the short story was that, well, they explained everything at the beginning with the exhibit recording. I'm like, the way that they did that wasn't that great. Everything else was pretty interesting, though. But the ending, I'm like, what kind of a twist ending is that? Newt was the master all along. They just end it with that one line of Newt saying, like, one of the only English things he ever says in the short story, which is, I am the master. No, I am your master. But... I don't know what that does.
I'm the captain now.
I'm captain now.
I'm the captain now.
It's interesting that movies and TV hold power as both the soul soothers and the war propaganda. Both were viewed in the theater, later TV, and it's our window into the world. And so it's interesting, that he sees his responsibility to make movies, or to make a movie about making peace. Versus all the others making movies about war and how we should give the military money.
Well, a lot of movies in the 40s could be considered by some to be propaganda because they were
but I'm talking about the news on the march type things where they had before TV.
That's
they would have them in
too.
the theaters. They would have the news in the theaters, and that's where everyone saw what war was going on. As well as radio, but still, they control all that. Especially in this movie, they're the ones telling to be calm about the war, or the alien is going. The set was designed with help of Frank Lloyd Wright, an architect known for his organic architecture, and who worked on the Johnson Wax headquarters, which, for those who don't have a picture immediately in front of you, there's like these sleek, plasticky walls, gentle ridges, and like the top of the pillars curve into the ceiling. In this Johnson Wax headquarters, you could look that up. A lot of his buildings have exteriors mostly of, they're just cubes, but they're gently curved roofs on them, and the multiple floors are always either segmented with ridges or side changes. They're never the same. Very, almost, how they would do a modern style where it would just eventually be just cubes and ridges. I thought that was interesting. It was all filmed on the 20th Century Fox lot and, Washington, D.C. The main cast never went to D.C., though. They just had... the minor people in DC. Shooting was about 2 months. Makes sense. Citizen Kane was 3 months. There was a testing month before that, so it was 4 months, but technically, still. Let's talk about the composer, the prolific Bernard Herrmann, who he composed for every famous Alfred Hitchcock movie, which would be, can you name him, Dad? I'll tell you if he did it.
The Birds.
Yeah, I think so.
Psycho.
Yep.
Vertigo.
Yep.
Rear Window.
Think so. I didn't write it. I wrote North by Northwest is the only one I wanted on that list.
North by Northwest. That's a good one. That's a good.
Bernard Herrmann was the composer for Citizen Kane. So we have this editor and the composer for Citizen Kane on here. He would also be the composer for the Magnificent Ambersons as well. His work would be chopped to pieces, and he would be very upset and want to be taken out of the credits. Because his score was chopped up. What a wonderful score it must have been. He also did Journey to the Center of the Earth and Jason and the Argonauts, which we'll do later. The Twilight Zone, which would start in 8 years after this movie came out. And Taxi Driver, the Martin Scorsese movie Taxi Driver.
Hey.
What do you think of that movie, Taxi Driver?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
William, I'm the only guy here. You talking to me? Sorry, it's a famous line from Taxi Driver. Robert De Niro is in that. Actually, he plays a very disaffected guy. He doesn't like where society's going, and so he starts looking at the world around him, and he just sees that just people are scum and need to be cleansed off the earth or something.
It is an interesting perspective of the taxi.
And he tries
driver.
he actually thinks about assassinating a famous senator in that. Actually,
I think that's interesting. Like, a taxi driver meets a lot of different people because they're ferrying people around of all sorts of personalities and backgrounds.
Yeah.
And they sort of get to ask them a little bit as they, converse a little bit, as is
except when when he's driving around and seeing everything, he's seeing the worst that society has to offer.
Yeah, because taxi driver, they're just driving someone around. You don't have to be nice to the taxi driver.
He feels like judge, jury, and
Should be,
executioner. He even tries to do right by certain people, and it doesn't turn out well for him.
Bernard Herrmann would inspire Danny Elfman, who did the Batman movies, Elmer Bernstein, who wrote the remake to Cape Fear, which was
a Robert De Niro movie. Yeah,
it was another Scorsese movie, I think, but I think Cape Fear was a Alfred Hitchcock remake. He wrote the remake to Herman Berman, his score.
Right.
Man with the Golden Arm, 10 Commandments, Kill a Mockingbird, Twilight, not that one. It's another Twilight. Airplane and Ghostbusters would be Elmer Bernstein. Stacked.
Now I'm thinking of the Airplane theme.
Jerry Goldsmith, who you would probably know for Star Trek, Planet of the Apes, Alien, Poltergeist, Gremlins, Mulan. That's a pretty good one. And the Universal logo theme, interestingly enough. He wrote that one.
Yes.
Jerry Goldsmith is a lot of big names.
And there's also another connection
by this
to Star Trek the Motion Picture. There's that connection there.
Howard Shore. Can you tell me who he did?
Howard Shore, is that Lord of the Rings?
Yep. James Horner.
Titanic? No. James Horner's Titanic.
Maybe, but he did Braveheart, Star Trek 2, Willow, The Land Before Time, and The Rocketeer, stuff like that. I don't recall seeing Titanic on there, though. This last one is the Call of Duty 2 OST by Graham Revell. Graham Revell also did the Street Fighter, Power Rangers, Riddick, Titan AE, which was Don Bluth's last film, Shark Boy and Lava Girl, callback. He did those OSTs as well.
It's all a circle.
Yep.
Because you mentioned that earlier in the...
I actually listened to the Call of Duty 2 soundtrack, and it's very grand. John Williams, a little bit, is in there. My favorite of the OST is Downtown Sniper Soviet. Both variations, because there's the during the mission and after the mission. Both are great.
And the Soviets were a big problem in this movie that we watched. Yeah.
Yeah.
They wouldn't meet with us.
Also give my opinions on the other two soundtracks, because there's Call of Duty 1 and there's Call of Duty 3. Call of Duty 1 has such a chaotic, thick soundtrack. Because Michael Giacchino wrote that one. It's such an Incredibles soundtrack. Because get it, Michael Giacchino wrote The Incredibles. So
and Mission.
Very good composer.
Some of the later Mission Impossible stuff.
Yeah. So Call of Duty 1 definitely better in my book, sadly. But Call of Duty 2 has a lot of good tunes by Graham Revell. The third one. Just if you're gonna listen to the Call of Duty 1 soundtrack, listen to Pegasus Bridge. I mean, like, a lot of these tunes will get buried in gunfire, especially this last one is like the last mission, it's the hardest mission. Pegasus Bridge, hauntingly beautiful. It's so beautiful.
So you're saying that when you're watching it, when you're watching and playing the game, and there's just
you can listen to the soundtrack
action
as well,
going on.
But all the action going on.
Take all the action out and just listen to the soundtrack. Yeah.
Yeah, you can play the game or watch a gameplay of the last part as well. But still, it doesn't matter.
What are some other notes you have?
COD 3, Jerry Goldsmith's son Joel wrote that soundtrack. It's very generically grand. Every song has a snare drum. Thumbs up, I guess. It's a phoned-in soundtrack, honestly, to me. But
really? Yeah.
The first game has an immaculate Michael Giacchino soundtrack. Second one is the next best in my book. And then the third one is just like, it's pretty good. Though everyone would acknowledge the later entries in the series, though. They would forget really about these first three. the 4th onward, onto Modern Warfare, Infinite Warfare. So the day the Earth stood still, modernly successful, $1,850,000 in distributors, US and Canadian rentals, making the year's 52nd biggest earner. Although that might sound little, number 10 is 330,000, only twice that. So it's a bell curve. Basically, like it would 52 doesn't sound like a lot, but 10 was twice this. So like, you get me? And then rentals is the distributor studio's share of the box office growth, which is apparently roughly half the movie generated by ticket sales. So even that, it's apparently they made twice of that number. So they made it probably as much as the 10th rated movie. Ringo Starr's Goodnight Vienna album has his face photoshopped into a screenshot of this movie. I did not know Ringo Starr went solo.
Yes. They all did to various levels of success, I think.
The Day the Earth Stood Still is in Arthur C. Clarke's list of the 12 best science fiction films of all time. He wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey, so...
Right.
I'm pretty sure I do have some of his other books because I remember his name. But, yeah, he wrote a lot of good books. He's part of the Big Three with Isaac Asimov, which is iRobot, and Heinlein, who, if you recall, Robert Heinlein helped out with Destination Moon. It's in the opening scene of the first episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds when Captain Pike says it's a classic. I mean, cool. I don't know if that... what do you think of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, first of all? It came out recently.
It started okay, but they do not need to pretend like this is an actual prequel to Star Trek, the original series, because
they show you a better media at the beginning.
Well, characters do things that don't make any sense with regard to the original series. Just do your own thing. You know, they're constantly doing these prequels and these side things. There's some really cringy elements in Strange New Worlds. Sorry.
Speaking of which, the 2008 remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still, also a 20th Century Fox film, stars Keanu Reeves as Klaatu.
Keanu as Klaatu. Yeah. Keanu as Klaatu. No.
The interesting thing is humans, instead of leaving it to the humans, because you have said the end, it's up to you, the society, to what you'll do. Instead, Klaatu decides whether to let humanity be destroyed by Gort or not, which, by the way, Gort is just, 30 feet tall, I think, in the movie.
28 feet tall.
Yeah, he's 2 foot shorter, exactly, than what I had said.
And he can actually transform himself into nanite locust kind of things and, just eat anything in his path. Keanu is he gives a very alien... performance. That could be because his range is not huge. He's very, his line delivery is very alien, so it works for that. The problem I had with it is it was not that humans can do anything to stop the destruction, because we were destroying the Earth. Like, the Earth is not ours. The Earth is
the aliens.
Aliens or something, and they're like, we screwed it up. All it takes is just a child being sad that what we're doing to the environment, and he changes his mind. I didn't like it as much as this, but it's not that I'm against an environmental message. It's just that the environmental message didn't make any sense. It didn't ring true with me, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's like the environmentalism, it's always got to be in our hands, It's like if it's arbitrated by someone else, it's like, it's too late. Instead of giving us a feeling of power,
it's too late. We can't change it.
Yeah, like the thing about environmentalism is that we're supposed to go like, we have the power to do this, you do your small step. That's sort of the idea of our environmentalism. This is the exact opposite, where it's like, there's nothing that you can do. It's decided by somebody else.
You had your shot. We're done. Yeah, and
or it's up to the president, I guess, to deal with environmentalism, and it's like not necessarily, Right. So Patricia Neal was in Breakfast at Tiffany's, 1961. I don't know if there's another Breakfast at Tiffany's.
I think I remember the film, and as I recall, we both kind of liked it. That's the one thing we got. It's from a song. It's a dumb song. I'm sorry. Sorry if you love that song, but it's a dumb song. No,
she was
but, yeah,
in a British ripoff of The Day the Earth Stood Still called Stranger from Venus.
Stranger from Venus. Yeah,
They
changed her. They changed her name and changed Klaatu's
but
name. I think,
yeah,
and
it's
that's
interesting
it.
that she's like part of that. She was also the wife of Roald Dahl for practically exactly 7/8 of his biography.
And Roald Dahl is who?
Wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, BFG. Everyone knows Roald Dahl.
The Great
should.
Glass Elevator, which is the sequel to
Matilda.
Willy Wonka. Yeah,
A lot of good ones. Though not recently.
There's been two Matildas. There was a
Read the
live
books.
a live action non-musical, and then there was a live action musical that was on Netflix.
But I'm like, honestly, just like all these new recent movies are unnecessary, really. I'm just like, keep it to read the books. Come on, they're good. They're good books. Just keep it to the books, read them.
They will stand the test of time. And so,
And
what
the
else?
BFG movie is stupid, but I think there was also like a TV movie or something like that in the 80s that was animated, and that's better. That's all I have on that. But would be interesting to see.
Well, who's the guy who played Gort? Locke Davis
Martin. He was
Locke Martin.
Allegedly 7'7", but Robert Wise said he was actually 7'1", but he's 7 feet tall. The 7 foot tall man.
He still had
Shaquille O'Neal
risers.
here.
He still had risers in his boots.
Yeah, he was actually rather frail, and he had platform shoes as well. He could only stay for about 30 minutes in the suit at a time. Yeah, he wasn't. Robert Wise was like, "You're not tall enough," so he got him platform shoes, even though he's 7 foot tall.
So the scenes where the robot is still is actually
and
just a
it's a replica.
fiberglass model,
Because they wouldn't
fiberglass model.
because he wouldn't be in the suit if he couldn't. And first of all, he wasn't in the movie that long. Second of all, if he was standing still, then he was just a model. Then even still, when he was in there, he was only in there for 30 minutes at a time. He had trouble doing much else than standing still as well. Even walking and picking up people was too hard for him, really. So he had to like waddle almost and then pick up dummies of people instead of actually picking them up.
And you can, or with it had wires on the person to kind of take some of the weight off him. This movie is very influential. I think it can only
inspired
get
a
worse
bunch of
from here.
famous composers to do what they do best, which is compose.
But not just that. It's considered one of the classic sci-fi movies of the 50s.
Very classic.
There's a lot of janky movies in the 50s, but
a lot of good hands on it, and a lot of good came out of it.
Yes, I agree.
Peace would make its rounds eventually. I feel like when does the Cold War end? 60s?
Yeah, sometime in the late 60s. Yeah,
it's funny that he has this sign of signal of portent. That's what I was looking for earlier. Portent. The sign of portent. All the way back while it was just starting. As the Cold War is going on, it would be a cold time for the people with social destruction and imposters everywhere in the form of sympathizers. That is to say, The Thing from Another World, inspired by John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, okay. No, wait.
I don't know if The Thing from Another World exactly has the John Carpenter's The Thing, or whatever it is, the one where they are in the Arctic and the imposter aliens.
No. Okay, so here's the thing. The original short story, and we'll go into it next episode. The original short story, John Carpenter's The Thing remake owes more to the short story and is closer to the short story than The Thing from Another World. That one, though, if you've seen John Carpenter's The Thing first, if you've seen that one first, then you see this one, you're like, they're nothing alike. But I guess they had to make some changes to make the story work. So, but
it's going to be interesting still.
It is suspenseful. It's suspenseful. And both movies have these scientists or military people trapped in the Arctic. You can't go anywhere. You can't escape.
Social conflict runs amok.
And there's a UFO that has crashed with the occupant. So thanks for joining us tonight.
I had fun talking.
You did, and this was the episode that the Jason stood still because I was just sitting here going, yeah.
You'll think that the podcast is buffering, but in truth, it is ended.
In truth, it is ended.
Thanks for listening to Cinematic Fantastic Podcast. Click here and here for some more excellent content. Hope you'll enjoy it. See you soon.